I challenge the broadcast industry to do what movies have done, to identify your program in ways that help parents to protect their children.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Broadcasting to you live from Love Canal.
Oh, it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live here.
Western New York and all across the world. This.
Once in a lifetime, there comes a show whose sheer power eclipses all that has come before it. That show is
the Jonathan Fischer Show. And here's your host, Jonathan Fischer.
Here's Johnny.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jon Fischer Show, episode 4. We are in the midst of a huge polar vortex. It is freezing here in Western New York. I can't explain to you how much I hate the wintertime. I can't fathom when it gets this cold. And yes, I get it. Everybody comes and complains to me like, oh my God, John, you live in Western New York. You live in Buffalo. It's always cold here in the wintertime. It's cold 8 to 9 months out of the year, and then you get a really nice summer, and that's it. But if I could, I would move to Florida in a heartbeat. I hate the wintertime. But for you who are watching that are local, I hope you're staying warm. It is a miserable -2 outside with wind chills into the minus 20s, 30s, and possible 40s in certain areas. Just depends on where you are. So I hope you're staying warm. I hope you're watching us staying warm. Sit next to a cozy fire or make-believe one on TV, whatever your pleasure. Thank you for joining for me tonight. We're going to go right into it tonight. It's going to be a short episode. I am going to talk a little bit about the Mac Mini, which I promised during Game Day Sunday. I said I'd talk a little bit about it and what's going on. I am going to do a DIY video on it. I don't know how in-depth I'm going to go with the Mac Mini, but I definitely want to bring it up and tell you what I'm seeing and what has been happening and, you know, what's been going on lately. So I'll address that to you in a little bit. We're going to go over our poll. If you haven't, go to our Facebook page at Niagara Podcast Channel and take a look at our poll. I think it's up to 2 days. 2 days it ends. It's who's going to win the Super Bowl. Who do you feel is going to win, the Rams or the Patriots? I'll actually show that to you right now. Right now, 78% Rams. Wow, it's only 9 votes, so it's not a lot of votes, but I voted for the Rams, and only 22% for the Patriots, so it's kind of interesting. If you go to the Facebook page, you can scroll down to it. I'll repost it again at the very beginning and see if... but it's reaching a lot of people, so hey, if you see it, give it a quick vote. Doesn't hurt. But tonight, we're also going to introduce another new poll, which... It's about the damn weather. What do you prefer? I'm interested in what people like here in Buffalo. Do you like summers in Buffalo or do you like winters in Buffalo? Because there's not a whole lot of autumn and there's not a whole lot of spring. You get a little bit of each, but it's usually a really nasty winter or a very hot summer. Me particularly, I love the summer. I will trade that for the snow all day long. I just hate the snow. I hate the cold. A lot of people love the cold. I hate it. I do much better when it's warmer and hot. So that's just me. No Trump. No Trump versus Kardashian. Yeah, I have the game playing in the background. Just see if we're going to do a little quick game tonight and see how that's running. I have changed a few settings here on OBS. Just to see a couple of new things. Now that I have everything kind of updated to where I want, if you've seen me over the weekend, you've seen me test out how OBS is running, basically because of the Mac Mini and the Mac Mini upgrades. But right now, I'm kind of happy where it's at. There's still some minor things I want to tweak and get to where I want it to be, so the stream looks the best on your side as well as on my side. It's not too crazy, but right now everything is just working the way it should be. My frame rate's not where I want it to be, but it'll get there. I mean, it fluctuates between 30 and 24 frames per second, but I like how everything is running right now. The one adjustment that I did that a couple people told me to do, and one of our IT guys at work told me to do, was adjust my output visual to you. So instead of seeing it at a lower resolution, now you're seeing it at a higher resolution. It should be a lot more crystal clear. I mean, on my end, I'm looking at it and it looks great. It wasn't, I mean, that's what I'll do later. I'll try a quick game and see what that does. But nonetheless, that's for later. So let's get into it. So tonight I'm going to talk about basically college and people who go to college as much as getting into debt afterwards, or maybe not even finishing college. Like myself, I didn't finish college. I was kind of forced into a position where I couldn't graduate because I only had, 9 months to almost a year left. And the school, I went to ITT, which is no longer around. And they pretty much put me in a position where they could not get me the finance to continue my student education. And they put me in a position where I couldn't go back, and I still haven't gone back. And I'm paying for it now. And I know a lot of people out there are, and you know, my generation that graduated in the early 2000s and then went straight to college were promised a lot of things, and it hasn't panned out, especially with a lot of these cheap colleges. So I'll get into that. The minimum wage domino effect here in Western New York as well, not just Western New York, but New York State. And I'm pretty sure a lot of places in the country are seeing their governments, you know, up the minimum wage in the state, and it actually does more hurt than it does good. A lot of times you'll see like, hey, you know, my kid gets out of high school, he can go wherever and he makes $11 an hour now because that's minimum wage. But for those who've been working for 20, 30 years, that doesn't pan out very well because cost of living, everything else goes up too. So we'll briefly talk about that. And employers needing college education or degrees instead of experience, people taking that over experience, and younger generations saying, hey, you've got a college degree, come work for us, when somebody who has 10, 20 years of experience regarding or pretty much in that area. We'll talk about that. So the vice versa of all that. So let's get into it. This is kind of a touchy topic tonight. This is one I kind of had planned last week, and I put it off because I didn't want to have a whole hour-long conversation about this. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking. It's probably not of a lot of interest to people. It's just another one of my big vents, because my big vent and my big pet peeve, me personally, and this is what makes my shows, because I talk about my experiences. And my experience with this is I went to ITT Tech, and when I graduated high school, I had no intention of going to college right away. I knew somewhere down the road, maybe a year or two, I wanted to take a year or two to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, and then decide, what would be the best college for me. So right after high school, I decided to take the year off, and I did try to go into one of our local community colleges, but I felt like every time I tried to apply, I'd get nowhere, I'd get no help. And the big thing with, finances and grants and how to set up like a FAFSA or whatever it's called, I had no idea how to do. They never taught it in school. They never taught it. There's no help outside of school. And if you call one of the colleges and say, hey, I need help, they really don't give you much help, which is kind of funny, because if you want student admission and you need money to go, I think you should have someone who's like, all right, hey, I'm going to come. I'm going to come over there. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do, what website. Come here. We'll make an appointment. Come on in. We'll use our computer. You can set everything up, because obviously you're going here. So why not set everything up? Because when you do that stuff, you have to set it up for that school anyway. So why put all the onus on the student? I mean, I get it. I mean, you want them to learn, to be an adult, to learn that stuff. But most of these people are fresh out of high school. They don't know what they're doing. So it actually helps that if someone from the school was there to help you and bring you in, say, hey, we'll make an appointment, come in, we'll set up the FAFSA and the grant, and anything we can get you to get money here so that it's taking a lot off your shoulders. Come on in, and then we can talk finances as far as taking out student loans or federal loans and all that jazz. So I took a year off, and I don't want to bring my parents into this. It's not their fault. But this is where I was kind of forced into a pickle. It's either, I'm working full-time, making okay money, not actually not even close to okay, just, paycheck to paycheck, but I'm out on my own. And, but I'm still under my parents' health insurance because my father had worked for, American Axle, and, they could keep me on their health insurance until I was 25 if I was still in school. So that means going to college. Otherwise, by the time I was 21, I'd be cut off. Now, at that point, it was getting close. Or it was 18 or so. I don't remember the age, but it was somewhere right around that time after taking a year off. And I figured, I'm like, okay, well, I need to stay on this health insurance. That's more important because I want health insurance and nobody provides it for the jobs that I'm doing. So I was kind of pushed into a position to go to college. And I once again reapplied to local community colleges, getting nowhere. And knowing that I'm really big on computers and electronics and technology, I figured, okay, there is a school in this area that constantly advertises about what they do. And I'm like, well, that's right up my alley. So I checked them out, checked out their website. Everything was cool. And then when I went to go visit them, I was kind of a little like a red flag flew up. The school was in a plaza in our area. It's actually kind of funny where it was located. It's not too far from the University of Buffalo's North Campus. And I thought it was kind of funny it was in a plaza, but when we went into the school, it was actually like a school. Just it was designed like a plaza. And we talked to one of their reps there, and their reps helped us out. And this is exactly what I needed. I needed someone to sit us down and say, this is what you need. This is what we're going to have to do. And we're going to get you in. And when you get educated, you're guaranteed a job. Perfect. I can do this. This works for me. So lo and behold, I had to get my dad involved, and we had to take out student loans. And for 2 years, for a 2-year associate's degree for ITT Tech is $40,000 baseline, but you're not even adding in interest for your student loans. After you graduate, you get 6 months of leeway before you have to start paying on your student loans, and they guaranteed you a job to help pay that back. So they said. So the person that was helping me out, it was a woman. I don't remember her name, but they had one of the, I don't think it was the dean, but they had another one of their administrative managers come in because that's what they do, because they want to sell you. That's pretty much all they're doing. And they helped me and my father get in position to go to school. And it was great. But now that I look back at it, I find it incredibly haunting that a 2-year college cost $40,000 for an education that is really meaningless now. Even if I were to graduate, I found people who have gotten that $40,000 education, and it's now costing them $80,000 to pay that student loan back for a 2-year degree. And I'll get to that in a second of why I find that haunting. Let's fast forward. So a year and a half, or a year goes down the road. Actually, no, I'm sorry. 7 months goes down the road. And I find out that my dad is losing his job. Not on him. The plant that he works at is relocating. It's shutting down his plant, and it's moving most of its services to Detroit. So we had an option here. Either go with the company, drop everything and move to Detroit, or stay here and do something else. Well, obviously, we're all of age, so I was making a decision to stay regardless. So my dad obviously had to make that decision to go to Detroit or not, and he decided to stay. And because of that, there was no way to reapply for more loans because I had to co-sign. And that was another reason why my father was there. He had to co-sign student loans. So coming up on renewal, which is every year, and being at a 2-year school, at the 1-year renewal, we were able to get every financing option done except at least $8,400, which I think was like $8,463. I know there was a dollar amount after that, but it was around $8,400. It's a lot of money still. Now, granted, again, was young, dumb, had no idea what all this was, but I was able to get most of the loans in my name to get approved, but was $8,400 short. So I had to get my dad to co-sign. Unfortunately, he couldn't co-sign because at the 1-year renewal, you still have to provide all the proof of employment and all that stuff because that's how they renew everything. And of course, he could not co-sign for the loan. So I could not continue with my college education. I ended up going for a year and 3 months, and then they told me I could not go any further because of the money. Now, mind you, it's a little disappointing knowing that you put in a year and a half for college and it dies out and you can't go back anymore. So here you are, so many years later, and you're going to have to pay back $40,000, and you look back and that's the haunting thing. You realize that you just signed up for a college that now guaranteed you nothing because you couldn't continue and finish. I'm getting a little distracted because it's bringing back a lot of haunting memories. So one thing that they did hold true to their word was they guaranteed you a job. Now, the job that I got, I'm still at today, and I like my job, don't get me wrong. But I realized that the falsehood that they gave, that ITT gave, was that you were guaranteed a job that will help you pay back your loans, which was never true. And at the time when me and my dad went to this meeting and they told us this was going to be great, we're going to have this perfect opportunity to build off of and go from there. But like anybody, it never pans out, right? So fast forward, I stopped going when I started going. I went in 2007 is when I started going, and 2008, if I remember correctly, is when I stopped going because I wasn't allowed to go any further. You get 6 months after you stop, and then obviously you have to start paying back your student loans. And the funny thing is, you're not making nearly enough to repay back all those student loans. So if you think about it, if you go to a private college, because that's essentially what ITT is a private college. That's why you're paying $40,000 for a college. If you go to a community college, it's way cheaper, but you're getting the same education plus a few bonus classes, where my private school was offering the specific classes for the thing that you were. So I went for CET, which is computer electronics technology. And the thing that we learned was mostly hands-on stuff. It's just all about the components and how electronics function and the voltage and AC and DC electronics and all that. And you rarely had to take like any like English classes or anything like that. You just didn't have to. That was a really cool thing about ITT, and that's what sold me mostly. But you still had to learn the math. You had to learn all the extracurriculars too, and it wasn't a whole lot. But community college was going to give you that. And as I look back at that, I realized, wow, that is way more of a bonus now as opposed to me looking at it earlier in life. Because one, I don't like schooling. I'm always a hands-on person. I need to see it in front of me in order to learn. So if like at my job we repair stuff, and the best way for me to learn is by someone showing how to repair it, and then I actually get hands-on and repair it myself. If someone's teaching me into a class and having me jot down notes, the concept to me I don't get it all that well. I have to actually do it. And ITT gave me that opportunity to do more hands-on. Community college didn't. But looking back at it, I'm like, I may have been young and I may have not liked the concept of sitting in a classroom and not being all hands-on, but I would have paid a lot less for my college education and got more out of it for a 2-year degree than I did at ITT Technical Institute, or we'll just keep it at ITT. And where I'm going with this is just basically private colleges are exactly what it is. They're going to charge whatever they want to charge because they're a private institution and they're trying to sell you on what they can do as far as education. And that is exactly what ITT did. ITT just had so many shady underlining things going on that it finally crept up and people caught on to it. And they ended up getting shut down. And quite frankly, I'm happy because I don't want any more people getting into colleges like that screw them over. I'm not saying that colleges that are out there now are doing it. I'm pretty sure there are a few that are. But my word of advice to people who are trying to get that college education, community college is the way to go. Universities, if you're really high strung and you have great grades, GPAs, you did great on the the college entrance exams and all that crap, which I've never took because I knew I probably was never going to go to college. Then have at it at universities. You're still going to pay a ton of money, but it's still a hell of a lot better than private institutions. Private institutions, in my definition, is ones that advertise on TV. And that's what I want to educate people in doing. If you feel like you're going to go to college, my word of advice to anybody, go to a college that's in your area, more than likely a community college, because it doesn't matter. A piece of paper that you get is more than enough to any employer that wants to hire you. Cool. You went to Yale, right? More than likely that's a law thing. But let's just say you went to, that was a poor example, but let's just say you went to the University of Buffalo and learned electronics, right? You're not going to University of Buffalo and spending all this money to get like a low-end tech job that makes not that much money and impressing them like, oh, wow, you went to University of Buffalo and you're going here, you know your shit. Any college is going to teach the same way for a 2-year degree, associate's degree, than any other college. It's where you want to dump your money. How much money you have and where you want to dump it. You want to dump it at University of Buffalo? Fine. Dump it at University of Buffalo. You want to dump it at Canisius? Fine. DUVille? Fine. ECC, N-Trip? Fine. But it's what are you willing to dump as far as money? And you're all, no matter where you go, you're going to get the same education. So if I were to leave advice to anybody about going to college, and I'm kind of off topic here. If my word of advice for people going to college, I would tell them, do your research. Just like if you were buying a car, do your research. And understand, no matter where you go, you're going to be dumping some type of money in. It's just how much money you want to dump and how much you're willing to affect others in your family as far as co-signing, because most people who come straight out of high school don't have credit established, don't have anything really, don't have a money foundation. You're just gung-ho at whatever college you decide to go to. But don't fall for the ones that advertise on TV. The ones that don't advertise on TV are the ones that are doing really well because it's word of mouth. Like, hey, I went here. You should go here because it was a great college. They don't advertise for that. Like University of Phoenix, it's all online. I'm not flying all the way to University of Phoenix in Arizona for that college. It's dumb. That's how they get you. It's just, let's advertise on TV because we're an expensive school and we can dump that kind of money in advertising, but are we really that good? I was going to talk about the school debt jobs to graduation ratio, but I think I'm going to stray away from that. I'm sorry I vented about this whole ITT thing. It's such a downer for me because I'm one of the very many Americans that are still dealing with student debt, and there's no help. And another word of advice, try to register for grants. There's so many grants out there that they pick, and there's a lot of weird ones too, and it's good money too. But do everything you can to get free money first before signing up for loans, especially if you're going to a big high-end school like a university. you want to get as many free things as possible. Scholarships are a big one too. Grants. Scholarships and grants are your big two. But there are other things. You can get promotions. You can get sponsors. You know, stuff like that. Especially sponsors. Very rare. But if you get a sponsor to help you get through college, that's huge. Like a lot of times, if they like who you are, and it's usually like if you're a friend of a family member that's high up in a corporation, but you're going to school for that particular industry, they could sponsor you. So you've got to know people, but at the same time, you've got to exhaust all your resources. And that was one thing I wish I would have done, is exhaust all my resources before, you know, agreeing on anything. But again, we're all young and dumb at one point in life. And when you look back, it's like, if I would have had a lot more common sense in how I was going to do things, I would have done it differently. Oh man, what was I just talking about? But yeah, like I said, this is kind of like a downer episode because I'm like one of thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of American students out there that were forced to pay their student loan back because, or you're paying back a student loan that's too expensive and you just don't have the job industry out there is just not there for the amount that you have to pay back. That's the ratio I'm talking about, is the job ratio compared to the graduation student loan ratio. Or even if you don't graduate and the student loan you have to pay back is ridiculous and you're just not making enough money to make ends meet. I hate the fact that I'm in this situation. It destroys me. I know people I work with who have similar situations that their hands are forced and they let them go in default and they let collection agencies take it over. I'm not going to make any mention to the student loan industry, the student loan that I'm with, but I hate them. I absolutely hate them. They've had so many issues and so many red flags thrown up on them. And I begged and begged and begged other banks and industries to help me and piece this out so I can be with somebody who I know I'm going to like, and it'd be easier for me to help pay back the loan on. To just, yeah, I can't, I just, it's such a gray area. It's hard for me to talk about because it's just, I've been dealing with this for so many years that it's just a second nature now that, oh, student loan payment's out. Got to pay it. Oh, there's another one. Got to pay that. Oh, I'm going to let this one go to default. Can't pay it. Can't pay that. Can't pay that one. Can't pay that one. I'm going to pay this one. I'm going to pay that one. It's just second hand now, to where the fight is just no more. Me and my parents, especially my mother, we have fought this battle for so long. It's just who is left listening to help us out. You know, and it's not just me. There's so many other people who have this similar issue. And I wish it would be a lot easier, and I wish there was a solution, and then I wish there would be a way where, you know, my education shouldn't have cost me 40 grand for a college I couldn't graduate from. So I'm paying back money that I use, but I couldn't have the education, and I can't fight it. That's the suckier part. Moving on. Now, employers needing the college degree, that's a big thing that I like to vent about too, is because we as a society have changed greatly. I keep going back. I'm like, this is a really dull episode, but it's okay. We have a society have changed greatly compared to like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even parts of the 90s, where employers really wanted experience based on the college education because they knew a lot of people were going to college, and those people who were going to college were getting those high-end jobs. But because technology is out there and technology is the thing now, that's the future, you need to be more tech savvy, and in order to be tech savvy, you have to have certain college degrees and certain college education. So we're going to have to get that college degree. But with the changing times, a lot of people don't go to college and they still get the experience needed to fit that job, but because that little piece of paper that says you graduated from so-and-so says, hey, I've got that education, they still may not be the best fit. And I find that so disturbing that I see jobs that 10 years ago companies were hiring for, and I look at them like, oh man, I wish that place didn't require a college education, because I could definitely do that job. Like, I've done an operation management job for an alarm company. It was cake because I have the experience. I have everything that an operations manager knows what to do. The issue is that job now requires an associate's degree in whatever field that particular company wants. And I find it funny that 10 years ago that wasn't the thing. It's because technology changes everything. And I hate the fact that I don't have that degree and I can't reapply. You know, I'm not saying that's what I want to do, but I'm just saying, for anybody who has that 10 years, you try to go back. I'm sure you could, but let's just say you had that, you worked with a company for X amount of years, but you don't have that college degree, but you want to go somewhere because it's better pay. But essentially you're doing the same thing. That company says, well, we see you've worked there for X amount of years, but we're really looking for someone who has this degree because that's what our company requires. So we really can't consider you for the job. I think that's dumb. I think experience, hands down, 100% should outweigh a college education, especially if you have more than 2 years in that given field. I'm sure it's not that big of an issue, but for those who come straight out of college and get hired right away for a particular job that they're not good at all and still requires on-the-job training, what is the use of that paper? And that's what bothers me, is because that paper is meaningless. That college education is now meaningless. Sure, you did learn a lot about the industry in there, but it's nothing I could have gotten hired for that I couldn't learn there on the job. It just takes, what, a week or two more to learn? There's just foundations with that education. That's it. But to know the company, the ins and outs, and how they operate, you still have to learn that on-the-job training. You don't need a college degree for that. It's just frustrating. Now, the minimum wage is a big frustrating topic for me, especially a big frustration topic for me. I hate that every few years now, they keep upping the minimum wage. Cost of living goes up too when the minimum wage goes up, and not a lot of people realize that. Like, oh no, it's not going to be by much, and like. Perfect example, and this is where I get really into it. Think of how much milk and eggs cost 10 years ago, when minimum wage was right around $7 to $9 an hour. You could get a carton of eggs. You could probably still get it, just depends on what store you go to, but you could get a carton of eggs, a dozen of eggs for maybe like 69 cents then, right? You get milk for about $1, $1.15. Fast forward to now, minimum wage in New York State's $11 an hour. To make up for it, companies now have to raise their prices to pay these minimum wage employees, especially ones at grocery stores, because a lot of them that start there are not starting at $12, $13, $14 an hour. They're starting at base pay $11 an hour. So in order to pay that $11 an hour employee, they have to raise their prices on their products. Not just one or two, everything. And it's not a lot. It's not a lot to where you could see, but over a 10-year period, you will know a difference. And we all get it. Look how much gasoline, food, and all that stuff cost back in the 50s. It was nickels and dimes, right? Obviously, inflation and time and all that goes up, so everything changes. We totally understand that, but when it happens so frequently, it starts hurting people who make let's say they were joined in, let's just say they joined the workforce back in the early 2000s and they were making minimum wage then, which was $5.75 an hour, right? And it took them 15 years to get to a point in life where they're comfortable, like 16, 17, maybe $20 an hour, but they keep raising the minimum wage. And the minimum wage now is $7, $8 less than what they're making now. But cost of living is going up. So now that carton of eggs that was 69, 70, 80 cents is now $1.20. Or maybe if it's a deal, you get it right around $1. Or that milk that only cost about $1 is now $2.39. So a lot of people are going to question, like, well, what store are you going to say? I'm like, perfect one I can talk to you about is Wegmans. I love Wegmans. Wegmans is probably by far one of the best grocery stores I've ever been in. I love the atmosphere in there, and I love the products. And I love that they have a vast majority of products that they have in there. So free advertising for Wegmans right here. And this is no big disrespect to Wegmans at all. But I remember when I was right out of college, and I remember prices on certain products then. And I look back at it now and I'm like, wow, I could remember that this only cost me $1.15. Now it's $2.39 or $1.89, depending on what type of milk I'm buying or eggs or anything. I bring up those two because those are usually your basic ones that you buy. Cheese is another one. Dairy products, cereal, bread. Bread is a big one. Bread is still hovering around like that 89 to $1.19, but it used to be a lot cheaper too. And yeah, it's inflation. I get it. Everything has to go up. But when you have people that don't go up with the inflation, that's an issue. So now, if you think about it, that person that's now making that $16, $17, $18 an hour is now making that type of money that he used to make, or that person makes, like they were 7 years ago. So now you just gut punched that person and said, hey, you know, all those raises you got, we're going to wash those away with the minimum wage. It's one way to look at it. And we can argue to this we're blue in the face. I know people on the other side of this argument are saying, well, wait a minute, you're missing a whole lot of detail. I know I am. But for someone who, like myself, is, you know, I'm okay with where I'm at. I'm happy. I could obviously do better. Anybody would love to make more money. There's no wrong answer with that. It's just when you see the minimum wage go up and you see fast food workers complain that they want $15 an hour and they still screw up your order, and here you are bitching like, what the hell? How in the hell can you be wanting $15 an hour? You can't even get my order right. It's stuff like that that scares me, because if that actually were to happen, you're cutting workforce, you're cutting employees, you're doing this, you're basically putting an employer to submission, because now they have to pay all these employees. Like these jobs that are out there right now, like the McDonald's, the Wendy's, the Burger King, those are meant for minimum wage people. It's your starter job. You know, the restaurant workers, like the bus boys, the dishwasher, they want those people that are straight out of high school or even in high school, because it's a minimum wage job. It's a meaningless job. It's perfect for anybody that age. Then maybe you get them people that are older and, you know, they're not retiring, but they kind of just want a BS job or something that's on the side. That's another thing for the minimum wage. But you can't keep adding to that, because something's got to give. So where is the money that I'm missing? Where's that side of the argument that says this is a good thing? Because that's what I want to know. Where's the money coming in that's going to help the people who can't go up? Because sure, these guys who make minimum wage are now getting, hey, I'm happy I'm getting a raise. It's making me feel a lot better. But for those who don't make minimum wage and are struggling to make ends meet, or barely making ends meet, or just living at that line, are now realizing, well, you keep raising the minimum wage, but what are you doing for me? Like, where's my break? Like, I'm not getting a break from this. I'm actually worse off now. So every time I see a state say, hey, we're up in the minimum wage, oh man, I'm screwed. I freak. Like, really? We do not need to keep doing this every so often. Go online. This is the big thing. This is what really frustrates me. Go online and do research for New York State. List of times New York State has risen the minimum wage. Within the last 15 years, they have raised it almost 7 times. I could be wrong. And then look at it prior to that. That will shock you. I'm going to leave it at that. I want you to do the research if you're still watching. That is going to be the most interesting thing you do tonight. Even if you don't live in New York State, check it out. List of, and you could go on New York State Gov. It's going to take a little bit to find. You can do the search through Google and find out how many times. Just type in how many times has New York State risen the minimum wage from X amount of year to X amount of year or till present. It is hilarious and downright scary how many times they have upped the minimum wage. 7 years, 10, you can even go 10 years from 10 years ago till now. Hell, I started working when I was 16, and that was 2004. No, whoa, 2003. 2003. Minimum wage there was $5.75 an hour. It is at $11 an hour. Now you can tell, since 2003, we'll say, to 2019, they have raised the minimum wage quite a few times. Because it's not been big jumps. It's been like $1 or $2 a few. So it went from $5.75 to 7 something, then to 9 something, to 11 something. It's been going up like $1 or $2 almost every time. I'm pretty sure it's been 5 or 6 times. I don't want to go any further than that. It could be, maybe it might be a little less, but it's quite scary when you look at the comparison prior to. So for those who've lived in that span of 20 years, it hurts. It really does. And I hope that they come up with a better solution and a better way to help out their citizens, at least in New York State, to say, hey, listen, we're looking out for you too. We're not just trying to help out the lower end of the middle class. We're trying to help out everyone. All right, not that bad. New poll tonight. So the poll tonight is going to be, what do you like better? Do you like the Buffalo summer or do you like the Buffalo winter? And hopefully I'll have a post up too for people to respond to in the comments, saying what's your favorite thing to do during those seasons, summer and winter, and go on it. Visit us on our Facebook page, Niagara Podcast channel, for a little bit of fun. We still have that Super Bowl poll up. If you scroll down, it's the January 26th poll. There's 9 votes right now, and 78% of you believe that the Rams are going to beat the Patriots at a 22%. So I hope you're right. I hope I'm right because I picked the Rams. I'm excited for the game. I hope you have a fun and enjoyable Super Bowl Sunday, and I hope the Pats get destroyed and the Rams get redemption from that this rematch they're getting, because they lost that last time. It was actually when the Patriots. Ooh, now that I think about it, that's bad. This should be the end of the era, right? Because when the beginning of the era happened, it was these two teams that met in the Super Bowl, and it was Brady that won it, right? So it's only fitting that the Rams win against the Patriots, and that's it. No more Patriots. I'm so sick and tired of seeing the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. I'm so sick of the Patriots going to the NFC Championship game. Ugh. I have no emotion. I'm tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired because of this stupid cold. I'm so tired of snow blowing. I'm so tired of making my show perfect. But for those who snoozed off watching this disastrous snooze fest of event, it wasn't as entertaining as I thought, but hey, I wanted to get it out of the way. It was on the show. It was on the docket. We're good to go. Tune in for our February 13th show as well. That is our relationship one. That might be a little bit graphic. It's actually 2 weeks away. Next week's show, no script is made yet. I'll be getting that one going. We'll probably talk about this crazy weather that's happening for this week. We'll probably talk about it next Wednesday because, to tell you the truth, I'm actually stunned. This is one of those things where I'm like, Trump, do you really understand what global warming is? He sent out a tweet. He sent out a tweet that said, "Oh my God, I'm glad we have global warming because we need warmer temperatures." What? Or something like that? Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's a polar vortex, and we're all get slammed with snow over here. It's blizzard-like conditions. It's 2 feet of snow. Like, Buffalo is living to its expectations. Like, anytime that anybody comes to me, or I hear or I talk to somebody that lives far away, and I say, "Hey, I'm from Buffalo. I'm in the Buffalo area." Like, "Oh man, it must be cold. The winter's there." No, not really. We haven't really had a decent winter in probably 10 years. You know, the Southern Tier gets blasted because it's lake effect snow, but Buffalo itself, not really. I mean, even up north, Niagara Falls, North Tonawanda, we don't get anything. I mean, it's just, last winter we had 1 storm, 2 storms, maybe even a third, but it's the snow it drops, it's gone within the next couple of days because it's so warm. So last weekend, actually it might have been 2 weekends ago, we got blasted by a storm that went through, dumped a lot of snow. Had a kind of a little bit of a warm up, a couple of degrees above freezing, nothing major, kind of melted a little bit of snow, but then we get this big polar vortex that came in 2 days ago. And last night it started whooping snow, like blizzard-like conditions, blizzard warnings everywhere. State of emergencies were addressed today. Travel bans, travel advisories, you name it. Now, we're from Buffalo. We know how to handle our snow. If we get a few inches, it's fine. We get several inches, even better. If we get feet, we shut down for a little bit, we clear it out, but we go right back to work, all within a few hours. We're not like down south in the Carolinas or central parts of the country that get snow and freak out because there's a dusting. We don't do that here. Buffalo knows its winters, but at the same time knows how to handle its snow too. So yeah, we're getting hit pretty bad here in Buffalo. It's by far one of the craziest storms I've seen in years. Quite a long time. I've actually been wondering when we were going to get a winter like this and when we were going to get a storm that actually puts snow on the ground and sticks around. I may have said that too soon because this weekend it's going to be like spring-like temperatures. I'm talking 40s, upper 40s, low 50s for days. For days. So we're getting this polar vortex right now. It's super cold. It's -2 outside with gusting winds that causes wind chills to -34 if you're outside more than 10 minutes without proper equipment on or proper clothing on. You can get frostbite. You can get your ears black. I mean, it gets bad. Like this whole side of my body right here and on this side from snow blowing and shoveling earlier today has now gone completely dry and red. It's so bad and it hurts. Like I had to put like that O'Keefe's lotion on that's supposed to be for your hands. I mean, it's feeling a lot better, but this weather is no joke, and we haven't seen weather like this. Like last year, we had one day that was in a single digits. We've had a few days that were in the teens, but most of it upper 20s and 30s. We barely had a very, very cold day or even a big snowstorm. This year, this is our big polar vortex. We're getting slammed. We're getting the wind. We're getting the blizzard. We're getting the snow. And then this weekend, gone. Flood warnings are going to come out. Everything's going to melt. Everyone's yard's going to look like a freaking pond. You're not going to be able to drive down the street because the drains are blocked by ice. And it's just going to be a pile of mess. And Trump says there's no global warming. There's no such thing. And then he goes and says a comment like, "Well, I'm glad we should have global warming because then it would be warmer. We wouldn't have to deal with this cold." Wow. Okay, sure. Whatever you say, pal. I know you're not coming back, so you're not going to get impeached, but you're definitely not going to get a second term. I'm a Republican, okay? borderline Republican. I favor both parties. I'm just not a party guy. I want to be involved with my my politicians, my elections. I'm actually hoping one day I can run for mayor for Niagara Falls or wherever I'm living. That's how big into politics I am. I don't like to vent about politics because I don't like to stir people the wrong way. It's just not my thing. I am a borderline Republican because there's things about the Republicans that I believe in, like their hardcore values. That's what I believe in. But there's a lot of stuff that I just, no. And then there's a lot of stuff that the Democrats, no. But we should all be like this together. But they don't. And that's what bothers me is that, I mean, I have to pick. I can't be an independent because nobody goes for the independents. And I can't just be a no-name because then it's like I'm not even involved in the election, but I am still a voice. So I have to pick somebody. And pretty much everyone in my family member has been a Republican. I mean, my grandparents were sworn by Republicans. And, you know, I'm not going to get into that, but we're a Republican family. I have our outer family and my in-laws and my family. Some of them are Democrats, and I get it. There's nothing wrong with it. Your beliefs are your beliefs. I'm not going against it. I'm not going to convince you to be otherwise. I love to hear what you have to say. I love watching you bash Trump, but you also have to realize too, Trump has done amazing things too. A lot of things that no other president can do, and or no other president has done. And what really gets me is when they start, you know, like when you go on your Facebook and you start watching stuff from like what Obama used to say, and basically everyone ridiculing Trump because he's saying it. It's not because of what he's saying; it's because he's Trump, and it bugs me. Just before you post anything, this is my word of advice about the politics because I don't like venting. This is why I'm getting all worked up. Before you post anything bashing a president, again, research is key. Just double check to make sure that your particular president in your party didn't say the same exact thing. Yeah, I get it. Trump is just weird. He's dumb. I don't know. I don't know. I always thought Bush was dumb. I couldn't trust anything that came out of his voice, or mouth. But Trump, by far, research. I had posted something on my Facebook about everything that it was a speech Obama was talking about for immigration and how he wanted to handle immigration. And here's Trump, word for word verbatim, saying pretty much the same exact thing Obama said. And yet we're ridiculing him about the wall. We could save that for next week. How about that? We'll talk about the government shutdown. I'll have to make a note of that. Government shutdown, Trump haters, yada, yada, yada. Oh, that could be a fun episode. I'll write it down after. Thanks for joining with me tonight. I went a little longer than I wanted, but that's okay. It was a blah episode, and now I'm starting to get into that mode where I'm just like, but thanks. Stay safe, stay warm. If you're local, please stay warm. Don't go outside unless you absolutely have to. If you're going to brush your car, do it quick. Do it with layers. Just be safe. And please don't be those idiots out there who drive on these slick roads. Yeah, they're plowed, but there's still a very, very, very thick coating of hard snow under there, because anything under, 10 degrees, snow starts to get crunchy. And then snow will actually adhere to pavement to the point where the plows can't pick it up. And most of the times it turns to ice. So these idiots driving on the thruway are going to blast right by you and don't really see that there's ice underneath these piles of snow. And just enough traction will make you slip. I've got a four-wheel drive Jeep Grand Cherokee out there. I've slid out 3 times already. And I was going 10 miles an hour on most of those times. Great thing I have traction control in it and traction control correction, but at the same time, I'm trying to be safe. And a lot of idiots out there are driving like, oh, well, the street's plowed, I can drive however fast I want. No, don't do that. Don't do that at all. And furthermore, and I saw this was quite funny, and I think this was a New York thing, brush your cars off. I get it. It's freezing outside. But I want you to be aware that I'm driving out there. There was a car that got pulled over and somebody took a picture of it and I laughed. Thank God he got pulled over. His entire car was not brushed. He decided to go. His lights were covered. His back window was covered. His side windows were covered. The only window he could see out of was his front window because he used his wipers. All he did was get in the car, turn it on, and drive off. Are you kidding me? Brush your car off. Get a brush. They're only like $1 at the dollar store. You can get a really nice brush at Home Depot for $2, maybe a little more. Hell, if you have a house and you have a broom, use a broom. That's what I use. It's the cheapest thing out there. Just go out there. Whoosh, 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 you're done. Make sure your window's open. The last thing I need is someone driving down the thruway not realizing I'm right next to him and he veers into me and then I'm getting into an accident that causes up a pile up and just do us all a favor, please. Thank you. That's going to do it for me tonight. Thank you for joining. I will see you next week. Wednesday at 9 o'clock. That show is still scheduled. You're going to see a couple more game nights and game day Sunday. This maybe not because of the Super Bowl. I just thought about that. So definitely go on our Facebook page, Niagara Podcast channel, and see if anything changes up to date. That's where you're going to find out if anything's canceled or rescheduled. It might be earlier in the day. It might not be. It just depends on how we're doing things. But I'm definitely going to do a gaming show. I don't think I'm going to do one tonight. It's 10 o'clock. I might do one right after this just to see how the game looks now that I got the new resolution on here. So stick around for that. But I'll post it on the Niagara Podcast channel. Wow, I don't want to keep going. I would just keep talking. And don't worry, these shows are going to get dumbed down, and we're going to talk less and less. It's going to be that 30-minute show. We're not going to do the hour-long shows like we keep telling people. Shit. I mean, I've got a minute anyways until 10 o'clock. I might as well just talk that extra minute. Brad Schiavone, the sports guy from our sports guy. Brad Schiavone, who's been on our show before. We've talked sports. He is good to go. He is signed on. We're going to have him on. We're just talking a date. That will be listed on our podcast channel. So look out for that on Facebook on our podcast channel. And when he comes on, we're going to talk nothing but sports. Those will be good episodes. It'll be right here on the John Fisher Show. So you're going to want to look into that. Thanks for joining tonight. We'll see you next Wednesday. Stay safe. Be warm. Good night.